Welcome to a presentation of Hive80, the #1 online community for health, wellness, and medicine. The following is a part of our Hive Partner Series, highlighting experts from across the wellness spectrum.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another cooking therapy session. I'm Debra Borden, the Sooth Therapist, and I'm so excited that you're here for your appointment today. As you may remember, last week we did a session for anxiety and stress because, of course, we're all staying in place. Some of us with people we'd like to be with, people we'd love to be with, some of us missing people. But interestingly enough, I've been getting a lot of calls and letters since the last session saying, could you please do a session about relationships and tension and stress? So I think for a lot of us, this new construct of being 24/7, even if it's with loved ones, is producing stress, and so relationships and stress are kind of one and the same these days. So yes, we're going to do just that. And I don't need anyone to send any more articles about how divorce lawyers are booming and the divorce rates are climbing. We're going to try to help with that today. As you may remember from our last session, I also am living with 8 adults in a newborn. In the middle of a kitchen renovation, we had no idea it was going to have to stop. So yes, I know a little bit about stress myself. And today we will be talking about meltdowns, but also we'll be using our recipe to talk about softening and sifting and using all the metaphors of cooking therapy in our recipe for indoor s'mores. Now in cooking therapy, I always name our recipes. It helps it stick, to use a metaphor, and it has legs, so you'll remember it later. And so today's recipe, toward the end of what I've been asked to talk about, is called Stop the Indoors Wars with Indoors S'mores. So I think you'll be able to remember that. Now, just a little bit about cooking therapy, or culinary arts therapy as it's often known. I actually joke around that when it's called culinary arts therapy, you have to pay more for it. But it's cooking therapy, and you're going to be hearing a lot about it for a variety of reasons. But already it's been written about in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post. And the reason is, when you do a tangible experiential therapy, like art or equine, now cooking, different parts of the brain respond to that therapy. So it's not a substitute for traditional talk therapy, but sometimes without the eye contact, you'll find that you can have those aha moments by doing, and we will be doing today. We'll be making the recipe, we'll be using mindfulness, we'll be using metaphors, and because we're going to have an end product, we'll also be having mastery. And you know, if you could script a little mastery into every day, I don't think any of us would turn that down, right? Okay, so here we go. Our first step with Stop the Wars Indoor S'mores is turning on the oven, which I've done. And that's actually our first metaphor, because whenever you want to make a change, and hopefully we want to kind of bring down the heat in our households, you need a catalyst. So turning the oven heat on is kind of a metaphor for getting ready to make a change. Make sense? The second thing we're going to do is we're going to spray the pan that our indoor s'mores are going into. And so it's a 9x13 pan, and I've left a little bit of tinfoil on the sides. It'll make it easier to take out. So I have here my spray. I like to use the flour and oil spray. This is Baker's Joy. And we are going to spray together. Why? So things don't stick, so things come out easier. That's another metaphor. Let's take a minute to think about what you've been sticking to that maybe isn't working, that isn't making something go more easily. right? Sometimes we have these entrenched styles of communication or behaviors, and we're just used to them. They're familiar. But you have to ask yourself, are they working? Are they getting you what you want? So maybe you need to spray a little something different so that your relationships, your conversations, your interactions, especially at this time when tensions are high, come out a little more easily. Okay. Now, one thing I always do at the beginning of a cooking therapy session is I ask you to gather your ingredients. Okay? Today, physically, we have flour, we have sugar. This is Domino sugar, any sugar will do. And I'll tell you what I use, but just know you can use what you prefer. These are chocolate chips. I think I'm using Ghirardelli, but you could use Hershey's. For my daughter-in-law, who I've mentioned is gluten-free, I also use this Enjoy Life brand. We have marshmallows, mini marshmallows. Can't have indoor s'mores without them. And they are, I think, from Campfire. We have eggs. And those are our physical ingredients. But we're doing a therapy session. We're doing some cognitive behavioral thought processes. We're thinking about what we're bringing to the table, those ingredients that are not quite so physical. Maybe you're bringing just you need to get away from whatever the ordinary is. Maybe it's a distraction, a diversion, or maybe you're saying to yourself, you know, I need some help. I need somebody to give me some tool at this point that's going to help. Now, just a word about couples therapy and cooking therapy. I do it, and it's extremely diagnostic. I'm not sure right now if you're struggling with a relationship, this is the best plan. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Imagine if you have two people who function very differently. One is chopping, all the pieces are exactly the same. Another one is a free spirit who likes to just use creativity. You could set yourself up for more of a recipe disaster than a dessert. So maybe right now we'll just do a little individual session. So the next step in this recipe is layering the graham crackers. I'm using Nabisco graham crackers, but I've also used Escort crackers. And if you want, you could use a little salty cracker just to mix up and have a sweet and sour s'more. But we layer the crackers, and as we do, I want you to think about foundation. Yes, layering also, but if you're struggling right now with a partner or a family member, there was a time, either at the very beginning or even a month ago, when your foundation was pretty strong and you could build on that, whether with social events or family. And we're really out of whack right now. This has set us all into almost like a shaky foundation. Our roles have changed while we're sheltering in place. So I want you to, as you layer the graham crackers, think about that. Think about what the original foundation was that you had. Break them up to fit, and that will make the base for our indoor s'mores. So hopefully you've had a little time to remember what your first layer was. Now the recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of butter and 4 ounces of unsweetened chocolate, kind of like this one. And you can melt it in the microwave or you can do it on the stove. Just be careful not to burn the chocolate. So let's talk, I promised you we'd talk a little bit about meltdowns. I guess we're here about 3 weeks together. I've had 2. I forgive myself. It's only natural. All different personalities, all different food preferences, all different styles of cleaning, living. It's okay. You can have a meltdown. But how do you go from melting down to simply just softening? okay? Because let's face it, in the middle of a meltdown, it's kind of like burning the chocolate, right? Like it's bubbling, it's getting bitter. Whereas if you do it gently, good word, gently, then you have a little bit more of a softening. So hopefully, taking a look at this, you can think about how you can take something hard, like the chocolate and the butter, which came out of the fridge, and turn it into something a little more soft and warm. We're just gonna put this, right now it's cooled, by the way, because we're gonna put a lot of ingredients into it. I'm gonna put this into my pot. And we also talk about making the best of things, right? I'm very used to my KitchenAid, but with the kitchen renovation, it's kind of difficult to have everything where I want it. So I'm gonna make the best of it and do everything by hand. Now, everything else in this recipe is getting added right into this pot. So the first thing we have is 2 cups of sugar. Okay, you don't need a therapist to get the metaphor on this one, right? We're putting in all the sugar and we're sweetening the pot. So focus on the sweetness. And I'd like you to think about the goodness in you, as well as the goodness in your partner. But especially right now, you know, we get all wrapped up in like the tension and the anxiety. We seem to give so much airtime to flaws and worries, right? Why is that? I think about, you know, still a time I fell back in 6th grade and was embarrassed. Sometimes I actually can remember the feeling of being humiliated in 6th grade. But I've had a lot of successes since then, as I'm sure you have. And I rarely think about those as I'm falling asleep. Why is that? We're very hard on ourselves. So let's give ourselves permission to think about the goodness in our lives. We deserve it. Now, I also want to put in the eggs now. I've put in 2 in this bowl and I've saved 1. This recipe gets 3. Just because I want to crack the egg with you. You know, eggs always make me think of kind of like change and spring and new life. And I think that's very appropriate for our recipe today. We're going to crack this egg, and as we put it in, the recipe says just beat lightly. I love that because I don't know of a recipe or a relationship that could benefit from beating it to death, right? So that's my metaphor for the eggs. Beat them lightly. And, you know, if you're in the middle of an argument or something at home, maybe walk away. Maybe not make your point as forcefully. Think about eggs. Think about beating them lightly. Make sense? Next is the vanilla, 1 teaspoon. And I really like using this as a metaphor. Vanilla is kind of bitter, right? We put it in. We would never eat it alone. I know there was like a bad challenge out there about that, but terrible, tastes terrible. And yet, the recipe takes it, the batter takes it, and it enhances everything, right? So what is like that in life, right? What could be changed in life? We all feel a little bitter sometimes. But do we use that bitterness in a way that we drop it and grow from it and everything improves from it? I don't think so. A lot of us hold on to that bitter like we hold on to those styles that aren't even working for us, but we never really try to move off of them. This is where a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy comes in. It has to do with self-talk. What we think about a situation creates how we feel and then creates a behavior. That's it, really, pretty simply. So if we're sitting and feeling bitter, like I can't believe what's going on with the economy, I'm so distraught that I can't see these people and that people, this is never going to end, I can't even imagine how hard this has been, you're going to feel snippy, short-tempered, angry, aggravated, all of those things. And what are your behaviors going to be with the people you're hunkering in place with? They're not going to be good. But if we change the dialogue in our head a little bit, take the bitterness of the vanilla and change it to a flavor-enhancing dialogue, such as, well, this really sucks. It wasn't what I expected. But you know, I'm pretty tough. I'm with some loved ones. I've been through challenges before and I've done pretty well. It is a community. Everybody's going through it. Well, now the feeling's a little bit different. We feel a little bit resilient. We feel a little bit strong. We feel a little bit more control, perhaps, just because of our dialogue. And so our behaviors with our loved ones, they're going to improve. Make sense? I hope so. Finally, we have the step of the flour. And the flour is going to be sifted. I have 1 cup of flour. So I have a 1/2 cup scoop. So we're finished sifting, and I hope you took a little time at home to think about sifting through how you've been acting, how you've been feeling. I'm sure that, you know, there's 2 sides to every story, and I'm sure a lot of your feelings and behaviors are justified, but we've softened instead of melting down. We've turned bitter into something maybe that could be flavorful. We've given some talk to what we're telling ourselves in our heads. And as we mix this all together, I hope that you can sift through honestly, with clarity, a little bit of insight and self-reflection about whether you're making the batter and the ingredients in your household more smooth or more bumpy. And I wish you could smell this. The chocolate is amazing. But I think you can see how smooth this batter is, and it's ready to go in our pan. Once we pour it on our foundation, all of these good things, as I'm doing now, it's going to go in the oven, our hot oven, which is ready to help us make a change, and bake for about 30 minutes. Don't overbake it. And I'll see you then so we can finish off the final pieces of our indoor s'mores, stopping the wars. So welcome back. While you were gone, not only did I bake the indoor s'mores, but I did my favorite part of almost every cooking therapy session. I did the sprinkling. Remember, we had the chocolate chips and the marshmallows, and I sprinkled them both over, and it went back in the oven for about 5 minutes. The reason that sprinkling or topping is one of my favorite techniques is because it's an opportunity to end on a really positive note. You can choose to sprinkle in whatever you'd like. Hopefully it's resolve, kindness, hope, whatever it is that makes you feel grateful and thankful. For me, I started sprinkling in some thoughts about one of the 56 dinners I make a week for the 8 adults in this household, and that I am truly grateful for. So let this cool, and as our final metaphor, think about that. Our batter is cooling. What about you? Maybe you had a little bit of cooling off. Maybe you can take what we learned here today and take your relationships from hot, fiery, and broiling to a little bit more cool. I hope so. Our Stop the Wars indoor s'mores are going to help you flatten the curve, hopefully. Even if they don't help you flatten your waistline, that's okay. Give yourself some forgiveness while you're staying in place. Our time today is up. I hope that you had a wonderful session. I look forward to our next appointment. Till then, stay safe, keep smiling, and try to cook yourself happy. Visit me at cookyourselfhappy.com and at Hive80. Have a wonderful day.
For more information like this and free exclusive videos, podcasts, and downloads, please join us at Hive80.com, the #1 online community for health, wellness, and medicine.